Assalamu alaikum. I'd like to thank the El-Hibri Foundation for having me. I'm here to present the Young Leader Award, which celebrates collaborative leadership in the American Muslim community. This award is granted to those who are building communities for the betterment of our society. Women birth children, instill love, mercy, and morals within them. Those children go on to be confident in themselves, leaders of their families, and a benefit to all those who they come in contact with across the globe. A woman is a nation builder by herself. So who better to receive the first Young Leader Award than a woman? Racism is something that we try to hide across the globe, in the US and within the Muslim community. The more we pretend it doesn't exist, the more our ummah will erode at the very foundations of what should be loving for your brother and sister what you love for yourself. Unfortunately, as an African American, we encounter racism far too often. Growing up, I faced racism within the Muslim community that at times in my life have completely turned me away from the masjid and from Muslims altogether. This past Ramadan in June, I was with my family heading for Umrah. It's a minor pilgrimage, and we're in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. And we're in our ihram, we're in our white towels. We're saying our talbiyah, labbaik Allahumma labbaik, which means, oh Allah, oh God, here I am at your service. We're here to purify our hearts, to purify our souls. And as we're walking, I'm with my mother, I'm with my wife, I'm with my four young children. And as we're walking out of the terminal, I hear someone say, "Hey, nigga." And I'm walking, and I'm thinking it's just a negative voice inside my head, and I hear, "Hey, nigga." And as I'm walking, because I'm in disbelief, I hear someone say, "Salah, Salah," as if someone's calling me to prayer. So I turn and look, and he says, "Hey, nigga," and looks at me as if to say, "Yeah, you, nigga." Racism is real, and it's a global phenomenon. It's a disease within our community. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ warned us of this in his last sermon, that an Arab is not better than a non-Arab, or a non-Arab is not better than an Arab. A black is not better than a white, or a white is not better than a black, except by piety and good works. So I'm excited when we have someone like Namira doing this work, and we need the youth, and we need young leaders who have the energy and the will to overcome. And we can't just sit back and say, you know, this is just the way it is, because it's not. We have to eradicate this disease from within us. And before I pass on to Iffa, I would like to personally thank Namira, because earlier this year, January 2nd, my father passed away. May God have mercy on him. And she reached out to me and told me that her father had previously passed away 5 months prior, and she offered words of encouragement and love and support, and that if anybody in my family or myself needed help in any way, she was there to help. So when our El-Hibri Foundation reached out to me, I felt obligated to come and help present the award to you, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Husain. So I'm super excited to present tonight's first award, the Young Leader Award, to someone whose work I have respected and admired for many years. Namira Islam, the co-founder and executive director for the Muslim Anti-Racism Collaborative. The Young Leader Award aims to celebrate and elevate the efforts of leaders who have worked to positively transform their communities and to improve society. The first ever recipient of this award has done all of that and more by facilitating much needed dialogue, learning, healing for the American Muslim community. Driven by the belief that Muslims cannot address Islamophobia effectively if we are divided along racial lines and ethnic lines, she has worked hard to ensure that anti-Islamophobia activism does not marginalize Black, Latino, or Native American Muslims. Namira is deeply committed to amplifying the most marginalized voices and supporting their development, as emerging leaders and the organization she helped found, Muslim ARC, is dedicated to fostering deep appreciation and diversity, exchanging the meaningful dialogue and self-reflection in Muslim communities. In just 2 years, Muslim ARC has designed anti-racism curricula and educational material, conducted the first formal study on race relations in North American communities. Facilitating racial justice training, consulting organizations to seek to develop inclusive practices. Under Namira's leadership, Muslim Arc has helped individuals and institutions move from talking about diversity to actively creating spaces where diversity thrives. By improving the way that Muslims from different backgrounds interact with each other and enhancing their understanding of one another, Namira has made our community, our society, and our world a more empathetic place to live. But you don't have to take my word for it. Take it from someone who has worked with Namira directly and benefited from Namira's work. Nadia Tanova, director of the National Network of Arab American Communities, could not be here with us tonight, but she wanted to say a few words to Namira about the strong relationship they have built as they worked across communities of color in Michigan. Nadia says, "Over the past 6 months, I have worked with Namira to develop and implement a 6-month race and identity series that allowed participants to learn to uproot racism in multiracial alliances. This series has received an overwhelmingly positive response from our local communities. In each of these sessions, Namira has brought her authentic leadership to space, creating an inviting and open environment that has allowed for participants to feel comfortable having difficult conversations and asking hard questions that lead to greater understanding. She models compassion and humanity and uses this to create a safe and loving space for any group she's working with. Her leadership is exactly what is needed in these spaces, and her passion for her work is evident to all of those who interact with her. Because of this, she embodies the spirit of the Young Leader Award. I am deeply honored, along with Farhan Latif and Kareem, who'd like to invite on the stage, to present Namira with the Young Leader Award. Please give it up for Namira."
Thank you so much to all of you in the room, and especially to the El-Hibri Foundation for this recognition, and to Iffa and Husain for their words. I'm so humbled by this award, and I want to tell you a little bit about the experiences that brought me to this moment today. It's a warm fall day in 2nd grade. I'm new to this school, and some kids are talking about what they had for dinner last night. So I immediately pictured the dish that my mom made, using a recipe that my grandmother, thousands of miles away, sent her, and I pipe up. "I had lobster last night." I can taste that spicy creaminess of the dish and hear my mom's voice commenting on it being kind of a luxury, given my dad's one income supporting a lot of family. But I'm jolted back to that classroom when Cal, this blonde-haired, blue-eyed kid, asks me, "What did you say?" He's staring intently, and I'm suddenly feeling really unsure of myself. "Lobster? Do you mean lobster?" he says, starting to laugh. I'm silenced. It's not a mean laugh, but it feels like a referendum on my parents' accented English, and my world shrinks. Sunday school starts soon after, and I'm surrounded by other girls born and raised in the US like me, whose parents also have accented English. But after one mosque event in particular, I'm in the kitchen at home, confused and frustrated, telling my parents that I don't get why the Pakistani aunties don't like me. They kept talking to me in Urdu, even when I said I was Bengali, and they were so mean. My mom looks to my dad, and my dad looks at her, and she begins explaining. "We weren't going to tell you and your sisters this, but there was a war for independence when your dad and I were young. Bangladesh was East Pakistan. There was a lot of violence over language and mother tongues." The kitchen feels suddenly much brighter as I'm processing this new information. Unsettled, I'm seeing my parents through new eyes as I hear how quiet my mom's voice is and how silent my dad is. She continues, "But we thought, coming here to the US, people on both sides would let go of the hate and that they especially wouldn't pass it on to a new generation." Othered again in this religious space, my world shrank. It shrank again on 9/11, and again when I lost my beloved uncle, a pen pal, to a stroke. By the time I graduated high school, I had retreated into myself, quiet. It was sitting in the front seat of my dad's silver Malibu as a freshman in college that my world began to expand again. It was surprising that first 30-minute car ride home from college when he's asking me question after question about my courses and listening to me talk. Every weekend we drive, sometimes listening to the radio, and other times I bring up history and linguistics and psychology and women's rights and religion. And I talk a lot because I feel heard. and I began to feel strong enough to take on the world. Narrative is power. I go on to student leadership and freelance graphic design, and then law school, and then to launching an organization dedicated to amplify voices and center the narratives of those who are most marginalized. We launched during Black History Month of 2014, and by helping to amplify and center the narratives of others, my world begins to expand, and I start to feel a sense of belonging in my faith community and in society. Months later, my dad is diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. He encourages me to keep my obligations and to go give my first keynote speech in Nashville. It's a Muslim women's conference, and I speak about Muslim Arc's work and about the importance of inclusion and diversity, especially in the Muslim space. Later, I'm lost in my thoughts in the middle of 80 wonderful women when a tall, elderly West African woman comes up to me. "Sister," she calls me, "I thought it was just me. I didn't know this racism happens to other people." By this point, she's weeping a little bit and holding my hand. In listening to your talk, I realize I'm not alone. Thank you. And she walks away alone but strong. I carry this moment in all of the times when racial justice education work gets rough. Every single person in this room has felt othered, unheard, and powerless. And we find strength from the people who hear us in all of our multidimensional complexity, who give you that strength to go out there and change the world. Muslim Arc is about education for liberation, so that the elementary school kid, the young child in the community space, and every young person and older adult can have their narrative not just heard, but influence others. My dad was one of the very first investors in this work. Today, the 27th, marks 15 months to the day since he passed. It is so beyond humbling, praise be to God, to be receiving this award on this day, because it powerfully highlights his legacy. Narrative is power. My dad remains one of the key people who heard me when I was weak, and I'm standing in front of you all today, held up by so many people who believe in me enough to call me a leader. Imagine a world where we are all more strategic and intentional about holding open space for people instead of contributing to shrinking their worlds. This is what the El-Hibri Foundation has done tonight for me, and I am so grateful. Because the thing is, together, when we all get to know one another and hear each other, we become stronger to take on the narratives that damage and destroy individuals, families, and communities. By educating ourselves first and then others, we can come together, distinct but united, for liberation for the most marginalized and oppressed among us, so that we can all be free. Thank you so much.